I wanted to talk a little bit about this new truck I acquired. I've done nothing to this truck. It's as received, other than washing it and repairing the switch, which was bad, the light switch, which was bad. The next project I wanted to get into was having to deal with this start here, and it's a lack of security. Obviously, pretty much everybody agrees that using the cable isn't the best option. And so the standard thing that I've seen out there is that people are taking the switch out and putting in a plug-and-play switch with a key, which is certainly one level of security. It doesn't work for me though, because the problem is, for me, it's a kind of a padlock level lock that can easily be defeated. And of course, anything on this side of the truck, the wires are very easily accessible at the bottom, and so you can bypass pretty much anything you put there. Another option that I've seen is people installing alarms and defeating the start circuit, which is definitely a good option. That works well for somebody that's going to put a lot of interior inside, and so you can do some nifty schemes for running the wires and not having them show and this kind of stuff. But in my case, I'm going to leave it pretty basic, and I do want to keep the factory look, so I don't want to run wires in this direction necessarily at this point. So because of that, I wanted to share another option that may be something that some of you guys might like. It's a good option for me, so I thought I'd share it with the rest of you guys, and that's this guy here called the BatteryProg Brain. I've installed an older version of this already, so I'm going to start by showing you that, and then later on I'll tell you the difference between the older and the newer version and the benefits of it and how it works. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what comes in this BatteryProg Brain packet. There's a few different versions of it. There is a version that has remotes, which is what this is. There's also a version without the remotes, which is a little cheaper, that has a push button, which does the same thing as when you press the button, but obviously with no remotes. They can manage systems from either 1 or 2 or 3 batteries, so up to 36 volts. You can have them custom programmed for what the low and high cutoff would be in terms of trying to protect the battery, or you can just not specify and they use a standard setting, and what that does is when the battery gets to a specific voltage, it'll disconnect the battery to prevent deep cycling. What comes inside the box is you do get the basic switch here. This relay contains the circuitry and the relay, so this is IP66, it can get wet. This unit is a standard unit, so it's capable of 250 amps continuous and 1000 amps for 15 seconds. I think actually I saw somewhere it said 1100 amps, but I think right now they're claiming 1000 amps. The high current version has double that, so it'd be 500 amps continuous or 2000 amps for 15 seconds. This one is the one with the remote, so you can see that there is 2 key fobs or 2 remote controls here, and lock unlock, very basic function. When you hit lock, it disconnects the circuit. When you hit unlock, it reconnects it. There's also a box of little goodies here. Inside here you have things like an angle and a straight bus, so it gives you the ability to connect a couple different orientations, some terminals, some screws, some bolts, and some standoffs, so that you can, if you wanted to, for example, have this mounted to a hard surface, you would put these at the bottom here, and it's a standoff, so it sits up higher, or you can have it right on the battery. In fact, if you look at the side of the box here, there is, I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's a few different ways to hook it up to the battery, to the side of the battery, on top of the battery, whatever it fits. Okay, moving on to the actual installation. I have an older version here installed. The only difference between the two, here's the new version, and the old version is here. The only difference is there's this cap here. When you undo this cap, there's a button underneath you push that would override, so if you lost your remotes or something, you could actually turn it on without having anything. This one here, you jump a wire from this terminal to the positive, and it does the same thing. It's a little lower profile. I was hoping that this would fit right on top of the battery, but unfortunately it still doesn't fit, so you'd have to put it on this side where you have a little bit more room, and if you did that, you would have to then reconfigure the way your cables go to make it work. So in my particular installation, what I had to do, this is the positive side of the battery, as you can see. What I had to do was disconnect the positive cable, which is here, and run it through a big hole that I made with a grommet to protect it, and some anti-chafing material. And it comes to the unit here. Then from here it goes back in. This is an extra battery cable that I had to add because of the fact I'm remoting it, which then comes back to the battery. And what happens is basically when you hit lock, it will disconnect this terminal, so that it's the same as disconnecting your battery. And actually, you could, if you wanted to, have it so that if you had accessories that you didn't want to be turned off when you did that, you would basically tap off of the positive side. When you tap off of the positive side, this would then continue to give you power to those other accessories. Meanwhile, it would be disconnecting your cable for the start circuit. Now, for the 24-volt version, you're supposed to hook up this terminal to your accessory on your key, so that going down the road, if the voltage drops below the threshold for some reason, it doesn't disconnect the battery. In my case here, this is actually a 12-volt version, and I only have it hooked up to one battery because I don't care about the low voltage cutoff in my case. But if you did, then you would have to get the proper voltage settings. And by hooking it up this way, I don't have to have anything connected to this side, and unless one battery goes significantly low, it's not going to disconnect on me. In fact, I may have this reprogrammed so that the low cutoff and high cutoff are in such a position that essentially they're not functional, because that's not what I'm looking for in my case. All I'm looking for is basically lock unlock, which is connects and disconnects. And then this compartment, I'm going to make a lock for the seat so that you can't get to it very easily. Of course, this is not the way that everybody's doing it, so you'd have to know it's here before you could defeat it. Of course, it can be defeated with just undoing this and pushing the button, but it is, I think, in my view, a little bit better than having the key on the other side, because I think the key is pretty easy to defeat, and also I see a lot of them coming apart, so I'm not really comfortable with the quality of the keys, and that's why I chose to go this direction. So for practical use, you can see right now, if I turn the key, no lights, nothing happens. If I take this and I hit the unlock button, it'll connect everything, and you can see the lights came back on. I'll go ahead and let it actually start once I get the white light. Okay. So connected. Now if I hit the lock button, it'll disconnect, and once it disconnects, actually I can hit the button here so you can see. Disconnect, it just disconnects the power to the unit. Now nothing happens if you happen to have left your lights on or whatever, they would also turn off. Pretty much the way I have it set up here, there's no wires coming to this side here. There's also a cheaper version that you can find on Amazon. It's about half the price, but buyer beware. This does not claim any IP rating, so I don't think it's waterproof. It's only capable of 100 amps, so it's a lower current, obviously. It has a box that you have to install in addition to this, 2 separate units. Only comes with 1 remote. It's not hermetically sealed. I'm pretty sure it's not waterproof. If you're strapped for cash, maybe this is the way to go, but I don't think it's going to last. I recommend the other version. It is double the price, but it's still not that expensive at around $100 to $150, depending on configuration and where you buy it from. So hopefully this information is useful to some of you. I know there's lots of different ways to do it, with an alarm or with a key, and there's lots of different preferences and lots of different customizations out there. This is just the way I chose to do it because it was clean and easy. I didn't have to run any wires to the switch, and it's discreet enough that the average person is not going to know how to defeat it, so it serves the purpose for my case. Thank you very much.